Today we're going to be going over some popular fall fragrances that are 100% worth all of the hype that they've gotten and more. I think when it comes down to choosing fragrances that are perfect for this transitional time of year, these are some great options that you can't really go wrong with. As always, we have a pretty nice variety of things here, from a little bit more affordable, kind of cheap even, to more expensive. And then at the very end, we have a niche fragrance thrown in there if you really want to spend some money. We're going to get things kicked off with Hugo Boss Bottled. It's the Eau de Parfum version. This one has apple, chestnut, and cardamom. I really like this flanker, and you don't hear about it all that often. They discontinued Boss Bottled Intense, which is amazing, or was amazing, and they've had a few other really good releases too that have been discontinued. Boss Bottled Oud is another one that's very notable. Now, of course, they have given us Boss Bottled Absolute and Boss Bottled Elixir, two that have kind of made up for the fact that they discontinued some great scents, but still, I do miss those older ones. But the Eau de Parfum, it's simply overshadowed by everything else. This kind of has more of the Boss Bottled Intense roots. Now, it's not like a direct replacement to that one. There are still differences. It doesn't have that same type of, cinnamon apple pie sweetness that Intense does. But it is close, and it's definitely more so in that ballpark. Again, more sticking true to the Boss Bottled DNA that we know. Instead of like a prominent cinnamon focus here with that apple, instead you're getting some more of that cardamom instead. So still spicy, but just of a different variety. It does have a little bit of a gourmand sweetness to it as well. I really like this one, and I think it's great for this time of year. I wouldn't pick it up in winter. I wouldn't pick it up in spring, and definitely not summer. I think fall is the time to wear Boss Bottled Eau de Parfum. Definitely check this one out if you haven't yet. And on discounters, it's usually at a pretty reasonable price. Mid $50 range, I believe, is where it's going to be sitting most of the time. Which I will link everything down below to discounters as well to make shopping super easy for you. This next one is Dior Sauvage Elixir. Going to be one of the more expensive ones in this video. But, again, you can go for clones if you want. Latif Assad, 20 bucks. Basically does the same thing, right? But we'll just go with the original here for the sake of this video. Basically, it's woods and warm spices. So a sandalwood note, very prominent, with a whole bunch of cardamom and licorice and peppers and all that sort of stuff is basically what this one is in a nutshell. A little bit sweet, but mainly very mature, very classy, and not at all like Dior Sauvage, basically. So it's kind of a weird flanker in the sense that it is so far away from what you would expect a Sauvage flanker to smell like. They've crept away from it a little bit with Sauvage Parfum, although it still does tie back to the original somewhat. But this one just took a complete 180 and really changed things up a lot. And, I wasn't expecting it to be this different, even though the note breakdown looked different by a lot. I was still expecting some remnants of Sauvage, but there really isn't much at all. And I think for people who don't really like Dior Sauvage, this is something that you would like. It has more of a mature, classy, and just, down to business type of smell about it. And I think it's fantastic for fall and winter as well. It's way too heavy and woody and sweet to wear in summertime. And for spring, I just have things that I would prefer instead that are much more green, and fresh and clean. So that kind of leaves fall and winter, but especially fall for Sauvage Elixir. Again, it's expensive, but there are options to get it for less in the form of, discounters, but also, of course, clones, where you can save an immense amount of money. You could literally save $140 by going with a clone, which is pretty crazy. This next one is Armani Code Eau de Parfum. This is the 2024 release, which basically is just Armani Code Profumo brought back to life because they discontinued that. And I think it's as simple as they're just changing all of the bottles. That's really what I view it as. They're getting away from that old style code to this more sleek, refined, classy looking bottle presentation. I do admit these do probably look better than the old bottles, although those are just so nostalgic and it's kind of hard to see them go, but these do look a lot more modern and just more simplistic and sleek. So that's kind of what they were doing. They just axed those, and then now they're slowly re-releasing them again into this lineup. We saw that with this. We saw that with the new Armani Code Elixir, which is supposedly Armani Code Absolute. I haven't even bothered with buying that yet because I didn't want to pay full retail, but hopefully it hits discounters at some point. Basically, it's all about that Tonka bean here, kind of a sweet powdery Tonka bean with this fizzy root beer cola type of undertone that Armani Code Profumo is known for. Going to be more on the youthful side of things, but still not crazy either, not to the level that like a Stronger With You by Armani is. You know, that's just very, very sweet, chestnut forward, and very young smelling. This has at least a little bit more of a refined edge to it. And this one's on discounters. It has been for a while, and typically right around $100. All right, let's go for, actually these next two will be on the cheaper side of things here, which is always warmly welcomed, I would say. This first one is Jimmy Choo Man Intense. This one has tonka bean, patchouli, and melon. You also get I don't know, a little bit of a lavender accord in here as well. Nothing crazy. A little bit of citrus, although not a lot. Mostly what you're getting is that melon off the top, and then again that tonka bean kind of sweetness and all that stuff. It smells really, really pleasant. It's going to be a little bit fresher than your usual fall scent, I would say, and that kind of makes sense based off of the note breakdown. But it still does have enough of a sweetness to work well in the fall. And I would kind of classify this as more so an early fall scent. You know, when you're still getting those sunny days and it's getting warm outside in the daytime, you know, the highs would be when I would go for this one. Once you get later on in fall where it's getting dark super early, it's not quite warming up as much, and you've got more cloud cover and maybe some rain and stuff thrown in, you know, it starts to get a little bit more cold. I would be going for probably some of these other ones. But again, early fall, Jimmy Choo Man Intense would be a nice pick. And typically you're looking at around like $35 to $40 for something like this. Now, it's an eau de toilette. You're not looking at the strongest performing thing ever with this one, so keep that in mind. Probably going to be doing a few extra sprays than you normally would with some of these others, especially compared to something like Sauvage Elixir, which is just beast mode no matter what way you cut it. This is not that at all. So a couple extra sprays will get you through with this one. At this price point though, you know, you could go through 4 bottles a year and still be, you know, ahead as far as the prices of some of these others that we've talked about and just other new releases in general. This next one is Rochas Moustache Eau de Parfum. This one needs no introduction, so I really don't need to spend a lot of time on it. YSL Tuxedo inspired. There are many options you could go with here. There are so many clones. This one is, I guess you could say it's a clone, but it is a bit of a twist compared to a lot of the other tuxedo inspired scents. This one is a little bit different, heavily inspired by, but again, just a touch different, which I prefer because, well, I have the original tuxedo, but I also have basically most of the clones, at least all the popular ones. And so having one that is a bit of a variation on that scent is something I'm not going to complain about here, because otherwise it would just be way too redundant. Now, to be fair, I had this first, like compared to all the other clones. Moustache Eau de Parfum, I believe, was the first tuxedo clone or inspiration that I ever purchased, and then obviously bought more from there. But this is kind of what kicked off my YSL tuxedo obsession. I mean, the original did, because I bought that first, and the only way I was able to buy it was to basically split the bottle. So that was a long time ago, and so, you know, I have a partial now, but realizing that I didn't want to spend that much money on a full bottle and burn through what I had left, I got this one and haven't looked back. If you want a strong patchouli pepper-based scent, just spices and patchouli that is just perfect for fall, Moustache Eau de Parfum is one way you could go. You could go for any of the clones, or of course, Tuxedo itself if you want to spend the money. But for fall, you cannot beat something like this. Let's keep it moving with Tonka Cola by Mancera. I love this stuff. This is just a little 60 ml bottle. I don't recommend buying these, by the way. I mean, when you look at the prices of 120 mLs on discounters, they are so reasonable that it makes sense to get them. But at the time, I bought this when it was brand new, and this is all that they had. So I went for it. This is the only 60 ml Mancera that I have, and man, these bottles look kind of, they do look kind of silly. Yeah, I mean, the cap is basically you know, pretty close to the same width as the bottle, just for perspective for you guys who own these. So not a whole lot there. Doesn't really matter, you know, that this is enough. And at this point now, the 120 mLs are like as low as $70 for 120 ml testers with cap. Full presentation, you might be looking at an extra $10 or something, but they are so reasonable. And this is the answer to those who want kind of a tonka bean based cola style Roja Enigma, but without the booziness and the tobacco, because that's how I view this one. I mean, when it first came out, it was dubbed as a Roja Enigma clone. Definitely not. Very different in that regard. Again, I already mentioned no tobacco, no rum, cognac booziness, even no florals, which there is like some heliotrope in Enigma. But anyway, this basically is extracting the kind of Tonka fizzy Coca-Cola aspect of Enigma and then throwing in some cherry and kind of making it different in that way. I love how this smells. It is one of my favorites from Mancera. I mean, it's up there with Intense Cedrat Boisé and, you know, I don't know, red tobacco, cosmic pepper, all of that stuff. There are clones of this one too, so if you do want to save even more money, you could go for like a Paris Corner cherry cola. But again, no matter what way you go, just getting this DNA into your collection is definitely highly advisable if you want a great fall scent. This next one is Le Male Le Parfum by, of course, Jean-Paul Gaultier. This is a beauty. And you know what is so crazy? I was thinking about this. This is almost old news now, you know? That's just how quick the FragCom moves these days, because we're already, you know, we have at least 2 flankers that have been released after this at the top of my mind from this lineup, Elixir and Elixir Absolute, unless I'm somehow missing something. I don't think I am. But, you know, this is not the new kid on the block anymore, and it was for a while. It's old news. It's kind of like Ultra Male, you know. That was at the top of the game for a while, and it's just fizzled out. Do I really think this one is obsolete? No, of course not. People still talk about Le Male Le Parfum, but you know, again, it's crazy how fast things move. This one has vanilla and lavender and tonka bean, a little bit of cardamom and iris in here. Just basically taking that original DNA and adding in some spices and a little bit more of a sweetness. It's actually making it a bit more mature too, especially compared to Ultra Male, which is just very sweet and basically has not an ounce of maturity to it. Usually around $100 for this one. Prices have really come down, and sometimes you can score a big 200 ml bottle for like $120, $125 every now and then, which is just, that is so much, you know, liquid, so much fragrance for the price. Probably isn't a necessity for most of you guys with large collections, but when you're only spending an extra $25 to $30 maybe to get double the amount, sometimes it might just make sense to do that. We're going to finish this video off with that niche fragrance I was talking about. It's Kilian Sacred Wood. I love basically all of the Kilians that I have, which is not every release, but it's getting there. I don't have any that I don't like, and you know, I can't say that about every brand. You know, so there are some that I just don't care for. Not the case with this house. This is all about the sandalwood. Beautiful, smooth, silky sandalwood. This one went away for a while. Don't know why, but it's back now. You can get it on discounters and everything. Price point, usually around $200 on discounters, I believe. Maybe sometimes a little bit less, depending on where you're shopping and what sales are going on. 50 ml bottle. It's not cheap. It's also not the worst I've seen either, especially these days. You have to like a creamy, smooth sandalwood. And I believe, at least the old version of this, they listed off milk in the note breakdown as well. So milk and sandalwood, you know, at least in my mind, milk should not have a smell. If it does, you've probably got something going on there. But I think it more so gives the idea or the impression of just a smooth, silky, kind of creamy smell. And that is what this is all the way through. It's so smooth. It is the complete opposite of like a cedarwood based scent, which has kind of a rugged spiciness and a masculine smell to it. This sandalwood is just about as silky as it gets right here. This is so good and so alluring, and it's great for fall. I wouldn't wear this in winter. Doesn't quite have what it takes, at least for as cold as it gets around here. I would go for, you know, Black Phantom, Straight to Heaven, so many other options, Intoxicated, but for fall, sacred wood is amazing. Alrighty guys, that's gonna do it for me. Some fall fragrances that are 100% worth the hype and then some. I'll link everything down below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.